Guess what? I have nobody that ever call and check on me. I call and check on her every day. She ain't calling. I call her and check on her every day. Yeah.
In the dramatic world of love and hip-hop Atlanta, where chaos and personal struggles are commonplace, viewers and cast members of Season 12, Episode 15 will be in disbelief. One of the show's regulars, Lil Scrappy, who is well known for his volatile demeanor and tumultuous relationships, makes an unexpected revelation. The episode begins with a revelation that upends his already tumultuous marriage to Bambi and ultimately poses a threat to destroy the family they have worked so hard to create. Lil Scrappy and Bambi, who are dedicated to co-parenting and keeping their busy schedules normal despite ups and downs, appear to be having a typical day. The seemingly peaceful period swiftly devolves into chaos as they try to concentrate on their family relationships and spend time with their kids. But something darker is happening behind closed doors. Scrappy, a well-known figure who is renowned for his strength and tenacity, talks about a terrible discovery that has completely changed his life in recent years. He can't recall making any of the increasingly suspicious charges that appear on his credit card bill. He initially dismisses them, supposing there may be an error or perhaps a bank problem, but the charges continue to mount in frequency until they finally catch his eye. They were modest amounts, each more startling than the last, yet they were still significant amounts. It starts with a small purchase here, a dubious transaction there, but the numbers quickly reach an incredible $1 million total. Scrappy is devastated by the revelation. His initial thought is that his card must have been stolen by someone, most likely a friend or acquaintance who had access to his money. But as he looks into the charges further, he notices a troubling pattern. All of the charges are connected to his wife Bambi, not to nameless people or random websites. A feeling of betrayal consumes Scrappy as he processes the facts. How could someone so near? He recalls times during their relationship when he had dropped his guard and allowed Bambi to access his bank accounts in order to handle emergencies or cover family expenses. The emotional burden of what he's learned begins to weigh heavily on him, as he never imagined that those small acts of trust would be exploited to exploit him so viciously. This is about the violation of confidence, not just the money. Not just a little here and there, but $1 million had been spent by Bambi without his knowledge. Or consensus. Scrappy's face shows his sorrow when he tells his closest friends and family the terrible news. Most of them convey a single, unambiguous message, albeit some are shocked and others are furious. Scrappy is reluctant to bring his private life into the public eye, especially when his children are involved, and he wants to avoid it at all costs, even though they tell him to get legal advice and act right away to protect his possessions.
What they be talking about? We talking about what they she don't be on that. You just want me to look bad. You want me to look bad like I'm living your life. I know you said out on me.
Despite his internal conflict, Scrappy decides to confront Bambi when they get down to discuss the matter. The tension in the room is palpable. Scrappy's heart races as he glances at Bambi, who at first seems completely unaware of how terrible the situation is. Her composure just makes things worse for him, who feels completely deceived when Scrappy shows him the bank statements with the growing expenses. Bambi's face, her eyes widen in shock as she considers what Scrappy is accusing her of doing, and she doesn't respond immediately. As the reality of the situation sinks in, it becomes oppressive between them. Bambi initially claims that nothing went wrong and denies everything. A misunderstanding at one point, but Scrappy's evidence is unmistakable. Every purchase, every cost, everything points to her as the fight intensifies. Bambi sobs and gives Scrappy an explanation that he finds hard to accept as her first shock fades and the consequences of her actions start to set in. The money wasn't spent out of greed or malice, but rather as a cry for help. She acknowledges that she felt overburdened and isolated from everyone around her, not just Scrappy, as she fought to manage the responsibilities of parenthood, her husband, and her own personal issues. Assuming that spending would provide her with a momentary respite from the stress she was going through and a sense of control over a world that typically seemed unattainable, Bambi used it as an escape method. Scrappy found it hard to accept her, even if the shopping spree was an act of defiance against the emotional turmoil she had been experiencing. He claims that he cannot understand how she could so completely destroy his trust. She not only took the money, but also his sense of safety and trust in their collaboration. As Scrappy and Bambi attempt to cope with the fallout from the revelation, the situation becomes increasingly emotional. Bambi breaks down in tears as she acknowledges that she was caught in a terrible cycle of emotional suffering and self-doubt and never intended to harm him. However, Scrappy remains cautious and apprehensive when confronted with the harsh realities. Despite his want to believe that Bambi is sincerely remorseful, he feels that their trust has been irreparably damaged since the woman he loved and thought he knew has betrayed him in a way that is inexcusable. There is a persistent sense of ambiguity as the episode draws to a close, leaving Scrappy emotionally spent and unsure of what to do next. Will he be able to forgive Bambi and move on with their marriage? Or is this the end of their tumultuous relationship? But Bambi is forced to live with the consequences of her actions. Hip-hop fans and lovers now have to deal with the fallout from Scrappy's disclosure, as well as the knowledge that her choices jeopardize the goals they have worked so hard to attain. One thing is certain, Scrappy and Bambi's journey together will never be the same again. Only time will tell. Everyone is on the edge of their seat as a result of this unexpected turn of events in Atlanta, wondering how they will handle the fallout and whether their romance will endure this controversy, or if it is the end of their adventure.
Right, that's why you go ahead.
What they we talking about? We talking about what they
She don't be on that. You just want me to look bad. It's all good. You want me to look bad like I'm just living your life. I know you said out on you. Don't about this.
She don't say that. Why you no child support in the same? What you was like? I need you, bitch. Wait, you gonna say this? I'm never talking to you. You are. You a bitch. I'm that's what you are. You what? You're mad about that. Bitch, you're second girl. He followed me to the Dominican Republic. You know that America. He proposed to me first. He's he with me. He's a little bit here with you now. But you I left. You're still working the bathroom. You're still getting days. Please. Who do you want to see you in the street shouting out where around? I'm busy right now. You know why I like you, bitch? Oh, you gonna fight? Yeah, what point? Let me out. You ain't gonna
Hey, my shirt.
Despite his internal conflict, Scrappy decides to confront Bambi when they get down to discuss the matter. The tension in the room was palpable. Scrappy's heart races as he glances at Bambi, who at first seems completely unaware of how terrible the situation is. Her composure just makes things worse for him, who feels completely deceived when Scrappy shows him the bank statements with the growing expenses. Bambi's expression dims, she doesn't respond right away, and as she processes everything, her eyes enlarge with shock. At first, Bambi disputes everything, claiming that there must have been a misunderstanding at some point, but Scrappy's proof is evident in every charge and expense. As the reality of the situation sinks in, the silence between them feels oppressive. Everything points to her as the fight intensifies. Bambi tears up and provides an explanation that Scrappy finds difficult to accept as her initial astonishment fades and the consequences of her actions start to sink in. Bambi, she claims that while she struggled to juggle the responsibilities of parenting, her husband, and her own personal issues, she felt overburdened and cut off from everyone and everything, including Scrappy. The funds were used as a request for help rather than out of hatred or greed. Bambi used spending as an escape strategy, believing it would provide her a momentary relief from the stress she was going through and a sense of control in a world that often felt unattainable.